Chris Wrightson is the co-executive director of Zero Ceiling, a Whistler-based nonprofit that supports youth from the Sea to Sky and Lower Mainland who are experiencing homelessness. She has worked in the nonprofit sector both here and in Australia in the areas of both program delivery, research, and policy. Chris and her family moved to Whistler 8 years ago. They came for the winter, fell in love with the summer, and stayed for the community. My first connection to Chris was through our kids' shared love of snowboarding. We are both parents of girls who we can no longer keep up to, though Chris is still giving it a try, racing our kids at the Neil Edgeworth Bank Slalom. I am incredibly impressed by her. One day she will beat our children and all of us 40-somethings will celebrate our snowboard prowess over our kids, I'm sure. I look forward to that day. Chris doesn't do things the way they have always been done. She doesn't think about things the way they've always been thought about. She's thoughtful, straightforward, and very much a team player. Chris is an advocate for people. And as we talk about community today, Chris is a builder of Whistler's public common spirit. Thank you for joining us, Chris. Over to you.
Thanks, Jack. I've actually retired from my snowboarding career now, but it's nice of you to say that. And yeah, very proud to have daughters growing up in this community as well. So thanks so much for the warm welcome, and hi everyone. I'd also like to acknowledge that we're on the shared traditional unceded territory of the Squamish and Lillooet nations, and I'm really grateful to be here. So a few weeks back, Jack sent me an email saying, inspire us. And I usually try to avoid the microphone, but I'm actually really grateful to have a chance to say a few words about a unique and inspiring community. And as I look at everyone's faces here today, actually it's kind of terrifying, but I know that you all showed up today because you also have the fire in your belly to make sure that our community is healthy and thriving, and that we have a really strong social fabric to support us all. As the co-executive director of Zero Ceiling, I've seen, as Jack said, we work with young adults in our community who need extra support. And through that role, I've seen the best and the worst of Whistler. I've seen time and again the power of the community and the mountains to really transform people's lives. I've seen amazing support for the young adults in our program, incredible generosity from the local foundations and from all our businesses who always say yes to all the nonprofits when they ask for help, and immense support from the other nonprofits who are doing such important work to fill the gaps in our community. I've also seen racism, sexual assault, physical assault, discrimination and stigma, poverty, financial distress, deep-rooted systemic issues, and damaging colonial practices that continue today. And Jack, you might be thinking, come on, Chris, this isn't very inspiring just yet. But the work we're doing here tonight and in the coming weeks is to really think deeply about our community. How do we value every single member? And what are the opportunities for us to make things better? Because there are so many. We've been presented with this moment in history, and if there was ever a time to put bold ideas into action, it's right now. The pandemic shone a light on the interconnectedness of the economic, social, and environmental issues in our community. Many people have lost their incomes and are facing devastating financial challenges, which in turn impact mental well-being and physical health. When the pandemic hit in March, Whistler Community Services Society was put under immense pressure with the increased need for their services and the shutdown of their revenue stream. But seeing how the community stepped up with individual donations, businesses supporting the municipality, the conference centre, volunteers, and other nonprofits sharing resources to support them was truly incredible. Let's build on that level of collaboration that we saw so that it doesn't just happen as a crisis response, but it's the framework underpinning our community. We know from looking around the world that it's the societies that have a high level of integration between the government, the private sector, and nonprofits that have the strongest woven social fabric throughout the community. And when I'm speaking to the social fabric, I'm talking about the connectedness that people feel within their community and the safety net to support people when they need it. If we're talking about community, we also need to talk about our Indigenous community and the Squamish and Lillooet nations. We need to look inwards and ask ourselves where we are perpetuating racism. We need to do the hard and uncomfortable work of considering how am I benefiting today from the oppression of First Nations and Métis people. I know the municipality and Whistler Blackcomb have been building relationships and making progress, and that's really terrific to see. We all need to think, what can I do today? And as a first step, I suggest, if you haven't already, Google decolonisation. There are some locally based workshops you can do to begin the process. At Zero Ceiling, we're doing this work individually and also as an organisation, and it's hard but essential work. You can also spend time at the Squamish-Lillooet Cultural Centre, become a member, or supporting the Indigenous Life Sport Academy, based here in Whistler, which provides opportunities for local Indigenous youth through improving mental health, through sports, and reducing youth suicide. Let's do the work that's being asked of us. I have so much faith in our community. This is a group of dreamers and doers as we take the opportunity to pause and reflect, focusing on our community's unique and special aspects as we move forward. Finally, I just want to say I think there are 5 key ingredients that we can focus on as we engage in building the community over the coming weeks and months. The first is self-reflection within ourselves, our organisations and our community. Where are the gaps? What are the things we're currently doing that are holding inequities in place? To quote Dr. Ray Markham, who's a BC Indigenous health expert I heard recently say, there is no system, we are the system. Number 2, let's have those brave conversations that we're talking about. It's going to be uncomfortable. Vulnerability always is, but let's have the courage to discuss what isn't working and the stamina to implement the changes that we want to make. We need a diversity of opinion and experience around the table for these conversations. And as Ginny said, create the space for those conversations. Number 3, focus on equity. That is that some people need more support than others. If you're not exactly sure of the difference between equity and equality, just Google it. There's lots of great explanations out there, but it's equity that we're striving for. Some people are being more heavily impacted by the pandemic than others. Our small businesses are hurting. That came through in the thought exchange, if you look at all of that, and from conversations in the community. Young people are also hurting. The youth unemployment rate right now is double that for the population as a whole. Women, there's going to be long-term impacts for women that I could write a whole speech about, but I won't. Indigenous communities and our elderly community and others who are already considered vulnerable. Number 4, a healthy dose of urgency. And holy smokes, it's been incredible to see just how fast we can all act to protect what we love, and just how fast the government can act when they need to. And that alone gives me so much hope and faith that the future is going to be okay. And number 5, as we build back better, the most important thing I want to say today is let's lead with our hearts. Let's lead with love, and let's make compassionate choices as we move forward. Thank you. I'll pass back to Ginny.
Can I just get everyone to unmute and clap, because that was fantastic.
I'm inspired. I'm very inspired. I'm very inspired.
Thank you, Chris. That was the perfect way for us to kind of get into our 4th and final conversation in the last 2 weeks. The part about self-reflection, I think, is part of these conversations. And I think when you go into your breakout groups, you'll be asked to kind of take a minute first to reflect before sharing out. And that is a good way of building in that practice. The rest I will save for the end, but thank you.